Hey everybody, it's Dr. Kenton Wakes Up. Today is Thursday, September 19th, 2024. How's it going? Yeah, me too. Um, in the cup today, it's not Signature Select Columbia. It has been that. It's Melitta European Roast, which it's it's tasty, but there's something about that Columbia that I like better. So I'm not going to put the European Roast on the never buy again list. It's just down the list a little ways from my ideal. Okay, so today's Thursday. Ordinarily, Thursday is a day that I drive to Towson to have a lunch meeting with buddies. But today, that's not going to happen because I have a lot of administrative things to take care of, a lot of grading, a lot of prep work for upcoming meetings. So I didn't feel like devoting 2 hours of my day to driving. That's down there and back. To the, I would, it would benefit me more to stay here and get my work done. All right, so this morning, my kid appeared as I was getting done eating breakfast, and so we chatted for a minute. Um, for some reason, the concept of SUMGAI came forward. I have to write it down because it sounds like I'm saying two words, but in the parlance of people who are interested in collecting fancy goods, there's a guy. Let's say you're on the lookout for a Mont Blanc 149 vintage Mont Blanc 149, and you're scouring every antique store and consignment shop looking for such, and you go to the front counter asking for direction to the vintage fountain pens, and you get a little chat up going with the person working there, and you say, I'm looking for a Mont Blanc 149 vintage, and the person then says, some guy was in here yesterday and bought the one that we had. You go, curses, some guy. As I've gotten myself involved in other communities where people desire to collect the new old style or new in box or vintage or mint in box, there's always the concept of some guy taking the last one. Some guy was just in here yesterday and bought the last one. So, some guy. It's an interesting phenomenon because some guy is always causing trouble, always getting into mischief, making things harder for us, the stalwart, careful, responsible people, always undone by some guy. That's a lesson. I'm sure there's a lesson in there somewhere. I'm just not awake yet enough today to figure out what to do about it. Anyway, so my plan for today is to make a list of all the things that need to get done and see how many of them I can check off before I lose interest. That's not fair. Before I get too tired to do a good enough job at it. Let's say that. Okay. Let's see, so that's Thursday. Yeah, pretty much that's all I'm thinking about right now. Trying to get all this work done. Had an instructive meeting yesterday with my student, one of my students. Seems that the wheel of change strikes every level of the university hierarchy, at least a little bit, and so it's important to keep an open mind about things so that you can be helpful to somebody, even though it might seem like what they're asking for doesn't make a whole lot of sense, or you might wish that they would figure something else out to do instead. In this instance, one of the things that I did during my doctoral program was I worked for the same college where I was earning my degree. I was the tech support guy for the College of Education, now defunct. It was merged with the College of Family Consumer Sciences, I think it was called, and now it's called College of Human Sciences or something like that, or Human Studies. In any event, I was the tech guy for the College of Education while I was earning my degree as a PhD in education. And the people who I worked with in my professional job, fixing their computers and setting their networks up and all that stuff, they were the people who were also on my committee. So a person looking back on it might shake their head a little, and then they'd recognize that they're talking to me, and then they would say, "Oh, that makes sense. Jeff doesn't consider such things." Well, anyway, I asked my student not to stop, not to be afraid, but to consider that trying to rely on the same institution that pays your bills to also be trustworthy with your data gathering ability, that might turn out to be a little iffy. For example, if you're working in the dean's office of your institution, and you want to work with some data that the college dean wants to collect, and you're the person who's in charge of collecting the data, you might think to yourself, hey, I could probably carve off a little piece of this huger data set as a way to incorporate another piece of data and write a new study. Well, the issue is that in our current ethos, and I would have to say that I agree with the ethos, but that's before I've even said what it is. I'm sorry, my storytelling ability sometimes gets ahead of itself. Our ethos for our doctoral students is that they need to file a proposal for how they're going to perform their research. And in this proposal, it identifies their methodology and what data they're going to collect, how they're going to collect the data, what the audience is, the stakeholders, and so forth. So all those things are disclosed in advance, which I think, since I said the word disclosed, I think that's the right word, because it solves a lot of problems. The initial reason why I think it makes sense, and it was the reason that was explained to me by my own advisor, was you want to get at least a stake in the ground with your committee. And if they don't sign off on your methodology, then you shouldn't do the study, because if they don't like your methodology, they're certainly not going to like the outcome of your study. So get that. Put a stake in the ground. Make sure that they understand what it is that you're trying to do. They may even have some suggestions for improvement that are helpful and useful. So this is in the instance where you're independently collecting the data. If you're depending on someone else to collect the data for you, and you put your stake in the ground, then you have no recourse. You have no the recourse is a strong word. You have no, well, I'll just finish the thought. If later the group that's collecting the data for you decides to collect the data differently, or they decide not to collect that segment of the data that belongs to you, or that they decide that they're going to distribute the surveys in a different manner, and they're going to target a different community or group, you're in the deep yogurt, as my former professor used to say, because there's nothing you can do to change the work that you're expected to do. And if the data that they intended to collect initially is not the data they're actually going to collect, you have no recourse for that either. So, yeah, I asked. I'm not suggesting it's going to happen. That's why I said I'm not telling you not to. But consider that it's a possibility that you may have a study carved out for yourself from this data that another group is collecting. And you may get to the point where the data is coming in and recognize that it's not the data you wanted, or it's not the data you can use, or it's not the data that was collected using the methodology that they proposed initially. And you don't have any control over that because you're not the person in charge of the project, ultimately in control of the project. It's just something to think about. And that's pretty much. I changed my campus password yesterday too, and that always causes a lot of issues. I'm seeing that there's a big red warning light on one of the synchronization tools that I have that grabs items from my campus shared folder and syncs them to my computer here at home. I need to log in again, apparently. Anyway, so today's, as I said, it's Thursday. It's September 19th. It's going to be a beautiful day outside. I can see the sun's shining bright. Please be good to yourself. Take care of each other. And remember always, love you, bye.